Hey YouTube, this is TJ. I'm coming back at you with something that's a bit heavy on my heart. It has to do with what dating has come to and our ability or inability to establish real connections because we don't know how to communicate, we don't know how to talk to people, and the consequences can be very dire. So let's get into it. So, the past couple of days, I have really been, I guess, kind of emotional as I've read some of the headlines, and I was thinking about dating, and I'm on a couple of groups, and they talk about dating and hooking up and how they're meeting people, and what I've noticed more than anything is people don't know how to talk to each other anymore. And because we don't know how to talk to each other anymore, and we have found a safe haven in being, behind our computers and going on these various sites, we can create whatever personality or whatever person we think is appropriate at the time. And it's affected so many areas of our growth. Um, I'm a Generation Xer, and in as much as I know that there are some things that my generation has dropped the ball on, there are some things that we took from previous generations that I think still are very beneficial and would be prudent for us to keep, um, traditionally for us communication so we can thwart some of the the consequences of or the aftermath. And I'm saying that to say because, the millennials and the zennials have made great strides in moving um, us forward with technology and the various creations and innovations. However, we've lost something along the way. And what we've lost is our ability to actually have real communication, the ability to articulate our thoughts, our ability to actively debate because we have relegated communication to emails, texts, social media. We don't even spell words anymore. We use um, signs, emojis, and it has affected so many different areas. So I'm gonna start with this. I remember when I was a teenager and I was dating, and I remember when a guy would call on me to pick me up for whatever date, and he would honk the horn, and I would get ready to run to the door to go get in the car, and my mother would stop me. She said, "Oh, no, 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 no. If somebody wants to go out with you, they're going to knock on the door and they're going to call on you like a young man should. You're not going to honk the horn because you're not a prostitute, for a man to honk for you to come talk to him." And I remember thinking my mother was out of her freaking mind. She was just tripping. You know, I thought she was doing too much, as people would say, or just overly regimented or overly strict. But never in a million years would I have imagined that 20, 30 years later, there would be no honking of the horn, there would be no knocking on the door. There would be people sending DMs or direct messages or, hitting you up on these social media sites, not even talking to you. I couldn't have wrapped my mind around that. I remember when I started to notice the deterioration in communication when it began with the emails at work. People would be able to send these long messages or emails, and then you would go back and forth, and there was no communication, and things would get lost in translation. So for me, because I'm old school, After a couple of times of an email, I walk down to your office and look you in the eyeball, and we're going to have a conversation. So that had to be maybe 2010, maybe a little bit before. Well, when my daughter was in high school, getting ready to graduate in 2012, I distinctly remember her having a disagreement with one of her friends, and she was really upset about that, and she was going back and forth in text. They were going back and forth in text, and she was, my daughter was just um, convinced of her position and what she thought her friend was telling her, and vice versa. So I told my daughter, I said, do not send one more text. Do not send one more text. You pick up the telephone and you call her, or you go over to her house and you all talk. Do not send one more text. She was hesitant to do it, but she did what I said because I was in charge. I'm the mama. And lo and behold, a day or so later, she came back and she said, Mom, you were right. I completely misunderstood what she was trying to say. So again, from 2012 to now, it has been a slow but steady, actually not really that slow, a steady trajectory downward for communication. I'm going to tell you another thing. Back when I was dating, when we would go out to parties and to clubs, the guy would dance with the girl. The guy would come and ask the girl to dance. Or the girl would come and go ask the guy to dance. But nevertheless, there was a connection. It started with the flirt, the smile. But now it's what someone pops in your DM. There is no flirting. There is no conversation. There are text messages, and you don't even know who you're communicating with. There are people who have actual relationships in their minds with people they have actually never met or actually had a conversation with. Catfishing. I could not and still cannot wrap my mind around how that is okay. What has that cost us? It has cost us the ability to really connect with people, to establish real and long lasting relationships, whether it be man and woman or whether they be friendships, because we don't know how to sit in a room and talk to each other. We don't even know how to have a real conversation because everything has been relegated to what you can type on your phone, how fast your fingers or your thumbs are going, as opposed to picking up the phone and having a conversation. You don't go out to clubs or museums or parks or beaches and see somebody that you like and flirt with them and go talk with them. You hit them up on Snapchat, chat, or whatever it is. So, is it any wonder we have situations that that will be very reminiscent or just like the situation that I just read about a couple of days ago? This young man here. It broke my heart. It broke my heart, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to offer this disclaimer. This is by no means an attempt to cast any aspersions or to speak ill will of the LGBTQ community. That is not what this conversation is about. What this is about is that we are in the midst of a generation or a time where people are not actually meeting people to find out and get to know them and to know who they're actually dealing with before finding themselves in this situation. This young man had a promising future. He met this person that he thought was a woman on Tinder who happened to be a 40-year-old man. Well, you might say, how could he not know that? That's what I was thinking. Well, apparently, from what I've read, these two connected on Tinder. The man, woman, or the man pretending to be a woman was sending very provocative messages, and she'd use a different picture and was, sending very sexually explicit texts about what she wanted to do to him and what she wanted him to do to her. So when they met for the first time, I guess the woman gave him oral sex. And it wasn't until he went to meet up with this person again the second time that that person revealed that he was a 40-year-old man, and then this young man beat him to death. He is 19 and his life is pretty much over. I don't understand, because this young man going to Virginia Tech, playing, a linebacker, there is no doubt that there will be plenty of young ladies of all races that he could have communicated with and met up at his university. Because again, I remember that my college experience, that's where it all went down. I had a great time in my husband, a former football player, college football player, he told me how it went down, and I know how it went down at the University of Oklahoma. So it baffles the mind that instead of establishing communication or connections with people he could see every day, or a young lady that he may see, at his school, at his high school, at his college, or even at the out and about hanging with his boys, that there's no way that he could have made some type of connection that would have meant something. And maybe, if he had happened upon a similar situation, he would have given himself enough time to figure out, okay, am I really dealing with a person who is what she says she is, as opposed to falling for somebody who captivated him behind a computer screen and create whoever she wanted to be. And now this young man's life is over. This is an extreme example, but it's happening more and more. And I'm not even talking about, encountering a transgender person. I am talking about meeting people, connecting with people online, not having any real substantive communication to find out who are you and what are you all about. Let me flirt with you, you flirt with me. Let's play, let's laugh, let's joke, let's talk on the phone until the wee hours of the night. There's none of that. There's absolutely none of that. What that is sending nasty ass messages, pics of one another, not discussing anything of any substance, but to find ourselves in sexual acts with people we don't even know. And we're not even sure if it's the people that we've been communicating with. So I've said that to say, yeah, there are some things that my generation has definitely, dropped the ball on, but, we could say that about the previous generations, and we learn, if we're really paying attention, we learn from the previous generations. But I implore you, young people, if anyone is listening, to stop that. Go back to when you could walk up to someone, you see somebody in a store, or you see somebody at a restaurant, or you see somebody out and about and you think they're attractive and say, hey, I'm not trying to, please, no disrespect intended, but I saw you and I thought you were really attractive. Would you like, can we get together for some coffee? Can we get together, to talk? Something. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that people may look at you crazy, because nowadays that just doesn't happen. Or you may get turned down, but you may not. Going back into the days when I was out and about, young, dating, partying, or whatever, there were many times that guys would come and ask me to dance. I wouldn't want to dance with them. There were sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. There were times I would go and ask guys if they want to dance. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, but, we were talking to each other. We weren't hiding behind a computer screen. And for these women who I've heard, various things about situationships, I think that is contributed or attributed to this online drop a DM behind closed doors type of situation where again you have not established any type of connection at all. And when you do that, or when you fail to do that, you open yourself up to either mistreat someone or to be mistreated because there is no respect there, because no communication, no relationship has been established, no investment has been established. I'm concerned. I'm concerned when we women of all ages have relegated ourselves to accept that. Listening to Kevin Samuels one night, a young lady called in. I guess she was around my age. She was, I think, in her 50s. I'm 54. She mentioned that she was out and about, and I think she was in a museum or something, and either a man came up to her or she went up to him, and they ultimately resulted in them planning a date. Now, I'm not to suggest that that's always going to work out because nothing, is 100%, but we got to do something different. We got to do something different. We have to know how to talk. We have to know how to articulate our thoughts and our feelings and our expectations and what we're looking for. I'm sharing because this is really heavy on my heart. I'm so glad that my daughter, my one and only daughter that I gave birth to, was able to establish a real connection with a man. And now they are married and have their first child. I'm so happy that my bonus daughter, through my husband, had established a connection and a real relationship with our son-in-law to build a family. But you can't build anything with just dropping somebody or going back and forth on social media because anybody can say anything behind a computer screen. And people are really bold and confident behind a computer screen. But when you get in front of them, they don't even have anything to say. That's what you want to find out. That's what you want to find out. If someone is dropping these texts to you and all this, you say, hey, let's have a chat. Let's talk on the phone. And someone said, in real life? Yeah, in real life. My husband and I, we met online. But one of the things we agreed on early, when we had that initial communication through the site, we exchanged numbers and we talked, had conversations, and we talked for hours like it used to be when I was a teenager. I could get to know him, laugh with him, And now with the technology, we could even FaceTime so I could make sure that I was communicating with who I thought I was communicating with. We got to dig a little deeper and stop being on the surface. We got to dig a little deeper and stop thinking just only about our carnal desires and getting a blowjob or having someone, I don't know. This is beyond me. But we have to dig a little deeper, if not for ourselves, for our children, because again, this young man had a promising future. 19 years old. And he may be done for. So think about it and tell me what you think. Peace and blessings to you.